Her name was Emily, a plus-sized brunette with a bright laugh and a fondness for country music. We had connected over a phone-a-date website. We had late-night phone calls talking about everything from bad exes to favorite songs. I knew country wasn't my thing, but I remembered enough from my last relationship to fake it. So, when she mentioned liking Luke Combs and Miranda Lambert, I played along. "Let's meet," she said one night over the phone, her voice soft but eager. "There's this cute cafe on Main Street." Sure, I replied, hiding my nervousness. "Friday night?" "Perfect. Oh, and just a heads up, I'll bring a friend. You know, safety and all." "Totally cool," I assured her, even though a part of me wondered how that might change the vibe. Friday arrived. I dressed casual but neat, dabbed on some cologne, and made my way to the cafe. Emily was already there, waving at me from a corner table. Sitting next to her was her friend. And damn, she was stunning. Tall, sleek black hair with a bold streak of platinum, sharp cheekbones. A Dua Lipa look-alike if I'd ever seen one. "Hey, you must be Jason," Emily smiled, getting up for a quick hug. "Yeah, hi. And you must be Emily. And you," I turned to her friend, "you look just like Dua Lipa." Her friend laughed, a soft musical sound. Emily's smile faltered for a second. We ordered coffee, some pastries. I tried to focus on Emily, but honestly, my eyes kept drifting toward her friend, who introduced herself as Cassie. She had this effortless charm, tossing her hair back, tapping her long nails on the table, smiling every time I said something remotely funny. Emily, on the other hand, seemed tense. Maybe she noticed the shift in energy. The date ended awkwardly. Emily gave me a quick hug and left with Cassie, throwing me a look I couldn't quite read. But later that night, I got a DM on Instagram. "Cassie, you were fun to talk to. Want to hang out sometime? Just us?" Wink emoji. I hesitated for half a second before replying, "Sure, when?" 2 nights later, Cassie showed up at my apartment. She slipped off her jacket like she owned the room. "Nice place," she said, looking around, her voice low and teasing. "Thanks. Drink?" "Wine, if you have it." We drank, talked, laughed. Then one thing led to another. She knew exactly what she was doing. Everything about her screamed confidence. Suddenly, the front door burst open. "What the hell?" Emily stood there, wild-eyed, phone raised. She snapped 2, 3 quick selfies with us tangled on the couch in the background. Emily's face was flushed, her chest heaving as she stormed into the room, her phone flashing. "Emily, what the hell?" I stammered, trying to sit up, but Cassie was half draped over me, equally frozen. "You slimy bastard!" she shrieked, hurling the wine bottle at me. It smacked against the wall just above me. "Emily, calm down!" I tried to stand, but she was already grabbing a decorative bowl off the table and flinging it. It shattered against the floor, shards scattering across the hardwood. Cassie scrambled up, putting her clothes into place. "Emily, let's just..." "Shut up, Cassie!" Emily spun on her, eyes wild. "I knew it! I knew you were always the one!" Before I could react, Emily lunged at me. Her palm connected sharply with my cheek, a sting of heat exploding across my face. Are you insane?" I barked, stumbling back, holding my cheek. She wasn't done. She yanked at my shirt collar, pulling me down and biting my shoulder. Ow! "What? Emily, stop!" I shoved her off, heart pounding in panic. Cassie grabbed Emily's arm, pulling her toward the door. "Emily, let's go. Come on, this isn't..." But Emily was a storm, still throwing curses and insults over her shoulder as Cassie half dragged her out the door. And then, silence. I stood there, panting, shirt rumbled, shoulder throbbing. My living room looked like a tornado had passed through. Broken glass, a toppled lamp, wine splashed across the rug. I slumped onto the couch, shaking. What the hell had just happened? That night, I locked all the doors, double-checked the windows, and turned off my phone. I couldn't sleep. Every sound outside made me flinch. The next few days, I kept a low profile. No Instagram posts, No texts, no casual strolls outside. I even avoided the usual cafes and bars, just in case. I didn't know if Emily was out there plotting revenge, or if Cassie would show up again. All I knew was I'd stepped into something far messier than I'd bargained for, and I had no idea how deep it went. This story is inspired from one of the real-life incidents shared by our subscribers. This is what they told me. Back in the mid-90s, I was talking to this girl over the phone. We clicked pretty well and eventually decided to meet up in person at a local mall. Now, since it was our first time meeting, she brought along a friend for safety, which I totally respected. Now, one thing that stood out from our chats was that she loved country music. So, the day arrives, we meet, and right away I notice her friend. Striking red hair, very bold, very attention-grabbing. Well, trying to be charming and show off my country music knowledge, I casually blurt out, and I swear to God, "Wow, you look just like Rita McNeil." Now, here's the kicker. What I meant to say was Reba McEntire, you know, the glamorous, fiery, red-headed country singer. But instead, I mixed up the names and compared her friend to Rita McNeil, who, let's just say, looks completely different. And to top it all off, my actual date was a fully figured brunette. But not at all in the same way that Rita McNeil was known for. Yeah, that moment didn't win me any points. I could tell the vibe shifted, and not long after, she stopped returning my calls. To this day, more than 25 years later, I still cringe remembering that slip-up. I can only imagine she's told the story a million times about that clueless guy who compared my friend to Rita McNeil. Now, to you, if by some wild chance that you're listening to this, I've genuinely been mortified about that moment for decades. It was nothing but a dumb name mix-up, and I've been kicking myself over it ever since. I was walking back from work late that night, my shoes scraping against the cracked pavement, the dim glow of the streetlights barely cutting through the damp mist. I wasn't supposed to be working that late, but you know how it goes. Just one more file, one more email, one more hour to prove you matter. I turned down Maple Alley, a shortcut I usually avoided. That night, for some reason, I didn't. That's when I saw them. 2 men, 1 woman. She was backed up against the cold brick wall, her eyes wide and shimmering with fear. One man pinned her shoulders while the other fumbled with a strip of duct tape, pressing it hard over her mouth. She gave out this muffled cry that punched straight into my gut. I froze, my feet locked to the ground, heartbeat pounding in my ears. I wanted to move, I wanted to scream, but I just stood there, watching. I don't know how long I stayed, eyes glued to the scene. Long enough to feel like a complete coward. Long enough to hate myself. By the time my body loosened, they were gone. She was gone. Only the echo of footsteps and the heavy taste of guilt remained. Instead of calling the cops or going home, I wandered. Ended up at Harrison Park. Just a guy killing time on a park bench, watching the night fall deeper into itself. That's when I noticed him. A homeless man, scruffy red beard, battered army coat, shuffling near another bench. He looked over, squinting through the dark, and slowly ambled toward me.
"Hey, man,"
he rasped, his voice dry like sandpaper.
"You mind watching my shit for a bit? Gotta catch some sleep."
"Yeah, sure," I murmured, not really thinking. He lay down right there on the bench, head resting awkwardly on a tattered backpack. I sat in silence, hugging my arms against the cold, replaying the alley scene over and over in my head. About 20 minutes later, he sat up, fishing a cigarette from his pocket. His hands trembled as he lit it. He took 3 drags before it happened. The cough hit him hard, doubling him over. His face flushed deep red, then darkened to a shocking shade of purple. His eyes bulged, mouth wide open but silent. I shouted, leaping up, smacking his back hard. "Come on, man, breathe!" He toppled sideways onto the bench. I panicked, hands shaking, unsure if I should call an ambulance. Would he even want that? Could he pay for it? I was about to dial when he suddenly gasped, sucking in air like a drowning man breaking the surface. He sat up, wiping sweat off his brow.
Fucking cop D,
he wheezed. Then, no joke, he took another drag off the cigarette he never dropped. I had let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. You sure you're okay? He gave me a rough laugh.
Ha! Been through worse. What's your name, kid?
Evan, I said.
Red.
He nodded, tapping his chest.
People call me Red.
For the next hour, we talked. Or rather, he talked and I listened. He rambled about his life on the streets, about how people look right through you when you're homeless. He had stories. Lots of stories, but none of them added up.
Yeah, I was a contractor,
he said at one point, squinting at the sky.
Built half the office towers downtown.
Thought you said you were a musician, I pointed out. He waved a hand.
Did both.
His eyes darted around constantly, like he was expecting someone. He kept asking me weird questions. If I lived nearby, if I had family, if I walked this park often. Something about the way he kept looking at my phone made my skin crawl. Eventually, I stood up. I should head home. Red gave me this long, unsettling smile.
You sure you want to walk alone, Evan?
Yeah, I'm good, I said quickly. I made it about 20 steps before I heard his voice again.
Hey, kid.
I turned. Red was still on the bench, but he was watching me closely.
You saw something tonight, didn't you?
I stiffened. What?
In the alley. 2 men, 1 woman. You saw, right?
My mouth went dry. How do you know about that? He gave another rough laugh.
Ha! This city's got eyes, Evan. And ears. Not everything is as random as you think.
My stomach twisted. Who are you, really?
Just a guy.
He shrugged.
Trying to stay alive. But you should watch yourself. People saw you, too.
I didn't sleep that night. I got home, locked the door, double-checked the windows, turned on every light. I even dragged a chair under the doorknob like some half-baked movie defense. But it wasn't fear keeping me awake. It was him. Red. His face. His laugh. His knowing smirk. That parting line kept rattling around in my head.
People saw you, too.
By dawn, I convinced myself he was just messing with me. An old, tired man stringing together street gossip and paranoia. I showered, grabbed coffee, walked to work, all while trying to shake off the night before. I told myself I'd just forget it, push it out of my mind. People disappear into cities all the time. Faces blur, memories fade. But Red's didn't. Over the next few days, I started noticing things. Small things. The receptionist at my office, Julie, gave me an odd look when I walked in. "Rough night, Evan?" she asked, half smiling. "Yeah, I guess," I muttered, but her smile faltered, eyes flicking down. I followed her gaze. A smudge on my cuff, rust-colored. Had that been there since the alley? I clenched my fists and hurried past. Then there was the elevator guy. Not someone I usually noticed. This skinny dude with thinning hair who ran the freight elevator. He caught my eye on Thursday, nodded like we shared some inside joke and said, "Funny seeing you here, man." We'd never spoken before. Friday, my boss called me in. Said someone had been asking about me. A man, rough-looking, beard, army coat. Said he was an old friend. My boss, amused, wanted to know if I owed anyone money. I told him no. That night, walking home, I felt watched. Not followed, nothing dramatic, just this prickling sense under my skin. Like the city was leaning in, paying attention in a way it never had before. By the weekend, I couldn't take it. I had to go back to Harrison Park. I found the same bench, the same cracked pavement, the same sagging trees overhead, but no Red. I waited, hours maybe, watched couples drift past, joggers pound the path, a group of teenagers laughing too loud under the streetlights. But no Red. As I sat there, cold creeping into my bones, a figure finally approached. For one stupid, hopeful second, I thought it was him. But it wasn't. It was an old woman, wispy gray hair, heavy coat. She paused in front of me, staring like she knew me.
"You're in the spot,"
she said softly. "What?" She pointed at the bench.
"That's Red's spot. Always has been."
I frowned. Yeah, I know him. I met him here a few nights ago. She gave me a strange look.
Red's been gone 10 years, sweetheart.
My mouth went dry. No, I just saw him. She shook her head slowly.
He died right here. Copty. Lungs gave out. Sad thing. People still leave his old bench alone, though.
I stumbled up, heart hammering. You're sure? She nodded.
That can't be.
I whispered.
I spoke to him. He helped me.
Her pale eyes softened, but there was something distant in them, like she was looking through me.
I was the girl,
she said softly.
All those years ago, Red saw me in that alley. 2 men holding me down. He stood right where you did. They did everything to me, and he did nothing. He carried it, she continued, that guilt. Drank himself sick, smoked himself to the bone until his lungs gave up. Died right here on this bench.
I stumbled backwards, hands shaking. No, I talked to him. He warned me. He knew. She just gave me this sad little smile. I didn't know what to say. My head was spinning, chest tight. I backed away, mumbling something, anything to get away. As I left the park, every shadow seemed to stretch toward me. Every rustle in the trees sounded like a whisper. People saw you too. I don't remember how I got home. I just know that when I slammed the door behind me, I locked it twice, dragged the chair under the knob, flicked on every light in the apartment. My heart pounded so loud I could feel it in my throat. I paced, drank water, sat down, stood up again, checked the windows, checked my phone. What if they saw me? What if I'm next? What if... Hours passed. Dawn bled pale light through the blinds. I was so exhausted I could barely think. And then, like it wasn't even a decision, I found myself back at Harrison Park. I walked in a daze, shoes crunching softly on the gravel, until I reached that bench, the one where Red died, where I met him, where he had once stood, frozen, while a woman, this same old woman, was screaming for help. I sat down slowly, my body heavy, my mind numb. I don't know how long I sat there. 10 minutes? An hour? Eventually, without even thinking, I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the cigarette pack I'd bought on the way. My hands trembled as I tapped one free. I'd never smoked before, but I lit it, brought it to my lips, drew in a shaky breath. As the smoke filled my lungs, a rough, bitter burn spread through my chest. I coughed hard, tears stinging my eyes. I wondered if this was how it had started for Red. One cigarette, then another, then another. I sat there, the sun rising behind the city skyline, and let the cold seep into my bones. Somewhere in the back of my mind, one truth settled like ash. I was in the spot now. This story is loosely inspired from a real-life incident shared by one of our subscribers. In real life, he saw 2 men holding a woman and screamed immediately. The 2 men ran away. He later also informed the cops. When I moved into that cramped off-campus apartment at 19, I thought the worst thing I'd have to deal with was leftover pizza in the sink, or someone forgetting to clean the bathroom. I was wrong. My roommate, Kyle, was one of those guys who seemed cool on the surface. Loud laugh, confident, always surrounded by people, but there was something about him that felt off. I figured it was just me being socially awkward. I'd been a quiet, sheltered kid my whole life, never good at reading people. But then weird things started happening. It began with small annoyances. My computer lagged when I was working on assignments. The mouse would freeze. The cursor would flicker across the screen. I figured it was a virus. One night, while typing up a paper, the screen blacked out for a second, and when it came back, there were random words on the page. Loser, why do you even try? I stared at it, heart pounding. Maybe it was some prank malware. I ran a scan. Nothing. I deleted the words and kept working. The next day, I couldn't connect to the Wi-Fi. MAC address banned, the router's admin page said. Weird. The router was mine. Kyle, did you mess with the router? I asked cautiously. He just smirked.
Why would I? You probably clicked on some dodgy adult site, dude.
I felt my cheeks flush. I don't do that. He shrugged and left the room. At night, while I sat at my desk working, the screen would flicker again. Sometimes the mouse would move on its own. Sometimes the keyboard would type without me touching it. I started shutting off the computer when I wasn't using it. Still, when I powered it back on, things would be slightly off. Files moved. Folders I didn't recognize. I genuinely believed I was being hacked. Some stranger on the internet, maybe targeting me from the fandom forums I used to hang out on. I was just a skinny kid trying to get through college, trying to improve my body. I'd taken progress pics of myself in the mirror, saved them on my desktop to track my gains. Harmless, right? Until those images got leaked. I came home one day and found Kyle laughing on the couch with two of his friends, Davis and Rich.
Hey man, nice bod.
Davis snickered. What? I said, stomach dropping. Kyle held up his phone.
Saw these floating around. Thought we'd give 'em a look.
My face went cold. My chest felt tight. How did you... Kyle stood towering over me.
Relax, man. It's not like you're a celebrity. Who cares if a few shirtless pics got out?
I felt sick. I locked myself in my room and called the only person I trusted, Kevin, an older classmate I'd gotten close to. He came over that night. You know he's been running screen viewer software on your desktop, right? Kevin said quietly. My head spun. What? Yeah, like watching you through your own machine. He's probably got admin access on the router too. That's why you can't connect sometimes. I felt like throwing up. But it wasn't just the cyber shit. Kyle escalated it in person too. Saran wrap on the toilet seat. Peanut butter in my shoes. His friends knocking on my door at night, whispering threats. One night, I heard them outside my door.
Maybe we should go in and make him earn his rent.
I sat there, fists clenched, heart hammering. I was done. That night, after they finally went quiet and the apartment fell into an uneasy silence, I texted Claire. Claire was in my bio class. Sweet, sharp-witted, always wearing her hair in these casual, messy buns that somehow still looked perfect. We'd partnered on a project once, and though we weren't close friends, she'd always been kind to me. More importantly, she knew who Kyle was. Everyone did. Hey Claire, random question. Do you know Kyle from my apartment? A minute later, she replied, Yeah, the loud one who plays beer pong like it's a full-time job. Why? Would you want to help me teach him a lesson? She replied almost instantly. What kind of lesson are we talking about? I hesitated. This was risky, but I was desperate. He's been screwing with me, like cyber stalking, leaking personal stuff. I need something that'll hit where it hurts. A pause. Go on. So I told her, all of it. Claire didn't respond for a long time. I was sure I'd scared her off. Until my phone buzzed with a new message. All right, here's the deal. I flirt with him. Make him think I'm into him. Get close. Find something we can use. But I need you to promise you're not dragging me into anything dangerous. I promise. I felt lightheaded. I didn't know if this was genius or a disaster waiting to happen, but it was the first sliver of hope I'd had in weeks. The next day, Claire started her part. She ran into Kyle at the student union, complimented his dumb gym shirt, giggled at his jokes. Within a day, Kyle was bragging to his friends that she was into him.
Dude, Claire from Bio is all over me,
Kyle said one night as I passed the kitchen. I kept my head down, suppressing a smirk. 2 days later, Claire texted me. We're going out tonight. He thinks it's a date. I could barely focus all day, heart rattling in my chest. Was she okay? What if he figured it out? What if this whole plan blew up in my face? Late that night, my phone buzzed. It was a video. My hands trembled as I opened it. Claire, sitting cross-legged on her bed, whispered to the camera,
Okay, so turns out your roommate is packing like nothing. I mean, I've seen gummy bears with more bulk.
She was biting back laughter, holding up her fingers to show maybe an inch and a half. She winked. You know what to do. I stared at the screen, half in shock, half in giddy disbelief. The next day, a new clip, plus a couple of blurry snaps that Claire had secretly taken when Kyle was half undressed, found their way to a couple of group chats. I didn't leak them myself, not directly, but I knew exactly who would. By that evening, Kyle's phone was blowing up.
Yo, Raisin Man!
Davis howled from the living room, falling over laughing.
What the hell is that supposed to mean?
Kyle barked, but the name stuck. Everywhere Kyle went, the quad, the dining hall, even just walking to class, whispers followed.
That's Raisin Man.
Heard Claire ditched him after seeing the goods.
Dude, can you imagine?
Kyle tried to laugh it off at first, playing it cool, calling everyone jealous losers. But the cracks showed fast. He stopped throwing parties. He stopped bringing friends over. For the first time since I'd moved in, the apartment was quiet. One night, I walked into the kitchen and found Kyle sitting alone, scrolling aimlessly through his phone. He glanced up, eyes bloodshot. You think you're so smart, don't you? He muttered. I shrugged. I think you should have picked on someone else. For the first time, Kyle didn't have a comeback. By the end of the semester, Kyle moved out. No dramatic goodbye, no party, no crowd of friends carrying boxes. Just gone. I stayed in that apartment for another year, and no one ever called me a loser again. Funny how people's perceptions change when the loudest guy in the room finally gets quiet. One afternoon, I ran into Claire on campus. She smiled, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. So, Mr. Mastermind, she teased. Feel better now? I grinned. Yeah, thanks to you. She laughed softly, nudging my arm. Next time you want to take someone down, maybe try less blackmail and more, I don't know, standing up for yourself? I raised an eyebrow. And miss the chance to recruit an undercover agent like you? Claire rolled her eyes, smiling as she walked away. This story is inspired from a real-life event shared by one of our Broccoli fam subscribers. Sadly, in real life, the subscriber didn't stand up for himself and chose to leave the room. I met her in the hallway outside our graduate psych seminar, leaning against the wall like she'd been waiting for something to happen. Wavy auburn hair, chipped black nails, black boots that scuffed the linoleum. She looked like a mess in the most intentional way. You smoke? She asked, eyes locked on me before I could even pull my folder from my bag. Trying to quit. Try again later. She led the way to the campus greenhouse behind the science block, lit a cigarette, and passed it without asking. We sat on a bench between hanging ivy, the kind of silence that feels like a conversation building from the inside out. Her name was Camille. 3 weeks in, I'd stopped going back to my apartment. Her studio smelled like patchouli and whiskey. The windows always cracked no matter how cold it got. We'd do it everywhere. On the kitchen table, the couch, once on her desk while a paper printed in the background. She made me feel like life was something you could tear into, teeth first.
I've never loved like this before,
she whispered once, head on my chest.
Not even close.
She meant it. I wish I could say I didn't feel the same, but I did, at least for a little while. By the second month, it started unraveling. First were the mood swings. I'd wake up to her crying in the bathroom, legs pulled to her chest. You're going to leave, she said once, mascara streaking down. Everyone leaves. I'm not going anywhere, I lied. I should have, but I didn't. One night, we fought over nothing. I said something about wanting to study alone, and she took it like betrayal. She threw a wine glass at the door and locked herself in the bathroom. I heard the scissors before I heard her scream. When I got in, hair was everywhere. Big chunks missing. Clumps on the floor like animal fur. She looked at me like a child, like she didn't recognize herself.
I don't feel real,
she said. I stayed. I told myself I loved her. I told myself it was my duty. But the truth was, I was afraid. A week later, I told her we should take a break. She didn't cry. She stared at me, then calmly said, "If you leave, I'll kill myself. I'm not being dramatic, I'm just telling you." I nodded. I said nothing. That night, she curled into me tighter than ever, her nails digging into my back like anchors. I didn't sleep. After that, I stopped trying to be close. I'd study late, turn off my phone, stop texting back immediately. She'd show up at the library. She'd accuse me of cheating. I wasn't. But then again, I wasn't exactly loyal either. There was Julia, another grad student in my cohort. Nothing happened, not at first, but we'd talk, laugh, sit too close at the bar during seminars, and I let her touch my hand once when Camille was out of town. It felt good to be wanted without fear. Camille sensed it.
"You're slipping,"
she said one night as we lay in bed.
"You're pulling away."
"I'm just tired." "No, you're scared. I can smell fear on people." She rolled over and we did it again like two pigs in the mud. She cried after. I didn't hold her. I started hoping she'd be the one to end it. I made myself colder, more silent. I left her waiting at dinner. Didn't answer the door when she knocked at my place at 3 a.m. And eventually, she did it. One morning, she showed up to my building wearing an old hoodie and no makeup. Her eyes were glassy, but not wet.
"This isn't love anymore. I deserve someone who doesn't flinch when I touch them,"
she said. She looked at me for what felt like an hour. Then she turned and walked away. I should have felt free. I should have felt relief. But I felt nothing. Numb. Like I'd been holding my breath for so long, I forgot how to exhale. That same evening, Julia texted me. "Something weird happened last night. You free?" I went over to her place. Her long blonde hair was uneven in the front, jagged, like it had been chewed. "Someone came into my apartment while I was sleeping," she said, her voice cracking. "I woke up to find this." She pulled a fistful of hair from a paper bag, her own hair. No sign of forced entry, nothing stolen, just this. We sat on her couch, both of us stunned. She leaned against me, shaking.
"You don't think?"
she whispered. I said nothing. A week later, Camille withdrew from the program. No explanations. Just a line in a faculty email that she had personal matters to attend to. No one saw her again. It's been 3 years. Julia and I never became a thing. This story has been inspired from a real-life scenario shared by one of our subscribers. Here's what he said. "I'd ended things once and she tried to end her life. I feared if I did it again, she might succeed. I couldn't live with that. So I grew distant until she left me, hoping I wouldn't feel fully responsible if the worst happened."
Yes, delivering for Amazon was horrible. It's long hours with impossible deadlines. It's stressful, and management comes down on you hard when you don't meet their absurd standards. My friends and family saw how much it drained me and tried to convince me to get another job, but I never listened. I needed the money, and it was hard to find a job at that time. I did end up leaving, but not for the reasons most do. The day started like any other. It was an early start, 6 a.m. So I chugged my coffee on the way to the warehouse as the sun rose from the horizon. They gave me my shipments for the day, and I knew it was going to be a long one. I got the route that went into the more rural areas, which I hated. You get fewer packages and stops, but there is a greater distance between each delivery, so you end up driving more. I filled up my coffee cup and my water bottle and hit the road. I started in a suburb, so it was easy. Many dogs barked at me, a few apartments with hidden front doors I had to hunt for, so it was a usual morning. I started getting to the packages that took me out to the boonies, and the drive between each stop grew longer and longer. I made a playlist full of old school rock that helped me though. The route took me deep into the woods, which led me to the house. There were tall black metal gates in front of the driveway with cobwebs gathered in the metal design. I rang the doorbell and the gates creaked open. I couldn't see the house from the bottom of the hill. It was hidden in the tall trees. The driveway took me up to a dark mansion that looked like it housed the Addams family. Crows congregated in the front yard, along with a large black mastiff chained to a post. The dog wasn't distracted by the crows. He kept his eyes on me. This house had multiple large packages, so it took a couple of trips to get them all out on the front porch. The dog growled at me each time I went up to the door to drop a package. Once all the boxes were in place, I went to ring the doorbell, but I couldn't find one. Instead, I used a demonic-looking lion holding a metal ring in its mouth. I knocked 3 times and turned to leave. I hopped back in my van and got out of there as quickly as possible. The gates slowly opened to let me go, but I didn't make it far when my tire blew. I checked my phone to call for help, but there was no service. My next stop was 15 miles away, and the creepy house wasn't even a mile in the other direction. It felt like my only option was to go back up to that creepy mansion to see if I could get service or use their phone to call Amazon or someone to help. I made my way back to the house. The gate swung open and I squeezed through once I was big enough for a person to fit through. I approached the black double doors and lifted the ring in the lion's mouth. Before I was able to slam it down, a door opened. A tall, broad man stood before me. "Can I help you?" he asked in a deep voice. "Yeah, sorry to bother you. My tire just blew, and I need to call someone at my work so they can dispatch someone to help. Do you have a phone I could use? Mine has no service." The man took a deep sigh. "Yes, come in." The inside was dark and musty. The big man told me he needed to look for his phone and we'd be back in a moment. He instructed me to stay in the foyer. He wasn't gone long when a woman peered around the corner. She must have been the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. She had blue doe eyes and long brown hair. "Who are you?" Her voice was as delicate as she looked. "I'm Marcus. My car broke down." "Poor boy." She came up to me and caressed my chest. "Can I give you a tour?" My heart began to race. Her blue eyes gazed into mine, and I couldn't think of an answer. Her hand traced my chest, down my arm, to my hand, and she led me to the stairs. "Come," she said. "You know, that big guy, I assume your husband, told me to wait in the foyer." "He'll forgive you." She led me up the stairs. I kept looking back to see if her husband was back with the phone. The beautiful woman took me down the hall into a lavish bedroom. "You know, I'm really just here to call for..." She put her fingers to my lips and shushed me. She pushed me onto the bed. Things were finally happening for me, but suddenly, the big man appeared in the doorway and raged at what he saw. He stormed over to the bed and ripped his wife off of me. I put my hands up in defense. "I promise, man, she came onto me. I wanted to wait in the foyer for you." He grabbed me by my arm and led me out of the room. His wife followed, giggling the whole time. I assured him I had no interest in his wife and just wanted to use a phone to get the hell out of there. He gripped my arm tighter and dragged me down the stairs and around the corner into a dark room. He turned the lights on and it looked like a torture chamber. All sorts of weapons hung from the wall. He slammed me down on the table that was in the middle of the room and began to fasten my arms and legs so I couldn't escape. "Listen, I really don't want any trouble. I just need help changing my tire." He continued like he didn't hear what I was saying. His wife floated around the table like a devious fairy, still giggling. I began to try and get out of the arm cuffs. The man was in such a rush to tie me down, he didn't do it very tightly. He rolled up a cart of knives and scissors next to the table and told his wife to take off my pants, and she obeyed. "To seduce another man's wife is an abomination that deserves punishment." The man spoke. He picked up a large pair of shears. "The price is your manhood." His wife's giggles turned into sharp laughter. I watched as he drew the shears closer to my manhood, and right before he was close enough to clasp it, my hand broke free and I slapped him. It wasn't that powerful of a slap, but it caught him off guard enough that he stumbled back. I grabbed one of the knives on his table, and as he came back to handle me, I stabbed his arm. He recoiled long enough I was able to take off my leg cuffs, grab my pants, and ran out. His wife wasn't laughing anymore and tried to block me at the door. I pushed her aside and ran for my life. I ran down their long driveway. I could hear their dogs barking fade with each sprint. Once I reached the gate, I put my pants on and squeezed myself through the metal bars. I hitchhiked back to the warehouse, and when I told my supervisor what happened, he didn't believe me. So he fired me on the spot for losing a van with packages. Honestly, I wasn't even upset because I planned to quit after that trauma.